Hello again. We are the Fantasy Sultans. It's week 11 in the NFL. He's the Hall of Famer Mike Sheck. I am Tripp Rogers, and we are happy you could join us on this week 11. And Mike, we head into week 11, and well, only two teams are on bye this week, and one of them we don't really care about. The other team we really do care about. All right. Week 10 review. I mean, obviously, Jackson Dart's injury for the Giants is gonna really change a lot of fantasy players who have got on the Jackson Dart bandwagon. I mean, that's gonna hurt them. It looks as though there is still more issues with Tampa Bay Buck wide receiver Chris Godwin. Those are two things off the top of my head. Of course, we still don't know what's going to happen with Jaden Daniels in Washington. And so you've got to deal with replacing some pretty big players on some teams now.
Yeah, you got to watch the injuries too. Like you mentioned, Jackson Dart is one to follow, but Devontae Adams had another masterful game, but he missed some time to an oblique injury. Sean McVay said he would have came back in that game against the 49ers if it were closer, but held them out. I'd monitor his status this week. The Jets wide receiver, Garrett Wilson, re-injured his right knee in the third quarter, didn't return to the game. 3 targets without a catch, but in a short week, wouldn't be surprising if he is ruled out of tomorrow night's game. We're going to have to see about that one. Also, Dalton Kincaid suffering a hamstring injury in the third quarter against Miami. Rodney Gadsden suffered a knee injury in the second half against Pittsburgh. I expect the Chargers to be quite conservative with him. I don't know if they're going to push him much this week in practice. Uh, although, talk about injuries, what about the performers? Matt Stafford in LA, he continues to show he's still beating out father time week after week. Stafford became the first quarterback to throw four more passing touchdowns while throwing an interception in 3 straight games. He threw for 280 yards and 4 scores. Meanwhile, Juwan Johnson has made a comeback for New Orleans since scoring for 1 point over a month ago. He scored at least 10 and a half fantasy points in 3 of 4 games during the last month stretch there. He's getting it going. Another player that's getting going after a slow start, Jamison Williams in Detroit. He seems to be more involved in that offense. Had 6 catches for 119 yards and a touchdown against Washington. So, it's funny because in fantasy, we want to talk about players to, pull the panic button on. Now, this is like, week 10 already, but, players do show up. They may show up later than expected, but they do show up. So, we do import exports, and sometimes our import exports are a little bit premature, but you just never know in fantasy.
And that's the thing, I go to what I said at the beginning. We were laughing about week 11. One team really matters and the other team doesn't. Well,
Yeah.
Juwan Johnson plays for the team that I said didn't. So, okay, I'll throw that out. That's not fair. Week 11 buys of the Indianapolis Colts and the New Orleans Saints. And the Colts coming off, boy, Jonathan Taylor. What if you had Jonathan Taylor last week and you did not win your fantasy game? That's pretty bad. That is pretty bad. He put together a show. And of course, if you had Brock Bowers last week, you got nothing. That was I don't know. Las Vegas, Geno Smith, he is just going to make you scratch your head and frustrate you if you are a Geno Smith owner. And that's the thing. And Ashton Genty's not bad, but there's no, I don't know. I just think there's no buzz. There's nothing with Las Vegas right now. I mean, we'll see what happens as time goes on. And you got to
Yeah.
believe in Pete Carroll. I mean, he knows how to win, but just not doing it right now. Import exports. That's what we're here for. Week 11. Mikey, you lead us off.
I got two must adds, and they're from the Bay teams. Tampa Bay's running back Sean Tucker and Green Bay wide receiver Christian Watson. Now, Rashad White's 3.7 yards per carry for the Buccaneers ranks the sixth worst, and his 1.3 yards after contact per attempt ranks fifth worst. While Tucker really hasn't been much better, White's inefficiency led to an uptick in usage over the past games. Tucker has 21 carries to White's 23, including a 4-3 edge in red zone attempts. Now, there's no timetable for a return for Bucky Irving, so that would be a useful piece to your lineup. Want to talk about Christian Watson as well. He would be a nice play against the New York Giants secondary. 2 catches for 45 yards on 2 targets in Monday night's game against the Eagles, averaging 23 and a half yards per catch, had a season high 8 targets. Now, if you're looking for a kicker to stream, Jacksonville's kicker Cam Little is a good option. He's a mid-tier kicker with upside. Now, the Jaguars' offense hasn't been the greatest in the past few games. We've seen it from Trevor Lawrence. And if you're a Trevor Lawrence owner, you might be saying, hey, I don't really want him in my lineup. I'm exporting him. Little has made, though, and keep in mind, last 2 weeks, he made a record yard field goal, 68-yard attempt against Las Vegas, has
Yes.
13 field goals, 17 extra points for a total of 56 points in fantasy leagues. Let's go to the exports now. And wide receiver Josh Downs of Indianapolis. He's up, he's downs. That's right. The Colts wide receiver, 57 yards this season in one particular game. He's only been in the mix thanks to 3 straight touchdown performances in consecutive weeks. But the scoring streak came to an end in week 10 on 2 targets. Colts have a bye this week. Then they face the Chiefs and Texans, who both sit in the top 3 in schedule adjusted fantasy points to wide receivers. Are you down with Josh Downs? I certainly am not. All right, let's go on to Minnesota tight end TJ Hawkinson. He's another export for me. Boom or bust player who's extremely touchdown dependent there. Hawkinson has 5 or fewer targets in 6 of 9 games, has yet to reach 50 receiving yards in 1 game. So Hawkinson, he's somebody I don't want on my lineup either.
Well, Minnesota, it was funny. I just happened to read something. Minnesota, you kind of wonder, did they make the right move with Sam Darnold and letting him walk last year? But Darnold's not exactly tearing up the league. I mean, Seattle's playing okay. Darnold is playing okay. I don't think, like I say, he's not setting the world on fire. So we kind of wonder, is Sam Darnold going to be like the guy who played the first 16 weeks of last season, or is he going to be the guy who played the last last 2 weeks of the regular season and a playoff game? We'll see what happens. Speaking of quarterbacks, how about importing Jacoby Brissett for the Arizona Cardinals? Now, of course, Kyler Murray is on IR with his foot injury. He is out another minimum of 3 games. He's out 4 weeks, obviously. And there's big questions as to whether or not they'll bring him back, because it looks like we may be going to a parting of the ways, Kyler Murray in Arizona. Murray's absence has actually helped Arizona's offense. Brissett owns 258-plus yards and 2 TDs in each of his first 4 starts. He has not failed to throw for more than 220 yards in any of his 5 games. He'll start at least 3 more games. We'll see what happens. He's been solid. He is somebody who could probably help you as a quarterback. Definitely a solid streaming option in single quarterback formats, priority in superflex leagues. I want to go to another Arizona Cardinal. Running back Amari DiMercato. Now, we have been down on him, and we basically threw him out with the trash. In fact, I think one of us exported him earlier this year. But the problem is the Cardinals have been hit with a lot of injuries, and they continue to use a 2-man committee between Zonovan Knight and Amari DiMercato. But DiMercato has led the team in rushing now in back-to-back games. Season-high 42 snaps, 104 yards of offense on 7 touches in Seattle. Majority of that came on a 55-yard jaunt in the fourth quarter. Okay. Knight left early with an ankle injury. We'll see about his status on Week 11, but I think DiMercato is probably available. I would grab him if you can, especially if you need streaming, but also keep in mind that since Trey Benson's been out, he could come back, and that could throw everything for a loop. But if he remains out, Michael Carter could factor in, but I think DeMercado is the guy right now. They're going to go with a hot hand. And again, given the fact that Jacoby Brits is the quarterback, I think it kind of helps his case. This is a guy who, and my next import, this is a guy who I've resisted. And I know, Mike, you've talked about him a couple of times. Tyler Algier for the Atlanta Falcons. Now, listen, Tyler Algier is not the starting running back. It's Bijan Robinson's offense. I know that. But in Sunday's game, and they played in Berlin, he showed some signs that he could be somebody, and he seems to be getting more snaps as the season goes on. He had 11 rushing attempts, 57 yards, and he also punched in a pair of short TDs. Again, if you have Bijan Robinson, you can't be happy with Tyler Algier taking these touchdowns. He's got 6 rushing TDs this year. This is a guy who you might want to grab because he'll be a TD-dependent RB3 in Week 11 against Carolina run defense that's starting to fall apart. I know that hurts the Hall of Famer. Panthers have allowed the 8th most PPR to running backs in the last 3 weeks. So Tyler Algier may be somebody. And again, you need to stream somebody, he would be a guy to grab. All right, candidates for the export pile. Justin Fields held under 55 yards passing in 2 of his last 3 starts. Need I say more? Aaron Glenn hasn't named his Week 11 starter, but it's expected that Tyrod Taylor is going to go back. I think at this point, Fields had some big fantasy outings, but he is not a viable fantasy starter. I think you can go ahead and export him. And that is our import-exports for week number 11. Jets on a short week this week, and they're playing, of course, the New England Patriots, and the New England Patriots surprising everybody. They are number 1 in the AFC East, and after beating Buffalo, I mean, you got to think they're the odds-on choice, and Mike Vrabel certainly has turned that franchise around from what they were a year ago. All right, we're going to do our new favorite segment, Buy, Sell, Hold. Are you ready, Hall of Famer?
I'm ready.
I know. You look like you're ready. You're in a buying mood, I think. Stock market's up. The Hall of Famer is in a buying mood. Okay, here are the 3. Woody Marks, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, and Rachaad White and Sean Tucker. That's a pair. Buy, sell, hold.
Well, I mean, that's interesting because I have Sean Tucker as an import, so I would buy into him. But Rachaad White, on the other hand, I talked about him only not seeing much action in it. Sean, so that's actually an interesting combination there. I'm going to buy into Woody Marks in Houston. I will buy him. Certainly getting the workload there. I would say for a hold, I think I'm going to hold Sean Tucker, and I'm going to hold and I'm going to sell Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. I just don't think that Washington offense, certainly the Jaden Daniels injury, is playing a lot in the way that Washington offense is rolling right now, and I just don't think it's effective enough.
Well, the other problem with Bill Krosky-Merritt is it seems that he had the opportunity. He was a training camp wonder. Remember, he had that big touchdown run in that preseason national game against Cincinnati, and everybody was talking about Bill. But he's disappointed this year. But again, how much of that do you blame on that Washington offense? Jaden Daniels in and out of the lineup. Marcus Mariota not doing a job. I'm going to agree, and that's what I have here. By the way, we got this from our buddies at Draft Sharks. Woody Marks is a buy. Again, he has solidified his role in that Houston offense, and it seems to be he's somebody you want to get. And he's had a couple of good games, a couple of easy matchups the next couple of weeks. So this would be a time to get him if you're going to get him. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, goodbye. Thank you. I've seen enough. Hold on Rachaad White and Sean Tucker. And again, the wild card in this, and you talked about this when you were talking about Sean Tucker, Bucky Irving. What are we? They keep listing him as questionable. They think he's going to come back. I think we'll see him before the end of fantasy season. The question is going to be, how is it going to affect Sean Tucker and Rachaad White? I think Tucker is going to get more of the snaps. I think White is going to lose. And I think when Bucky Irving comes back, I think Sean Tucker is going to move into that RB2 spot as opposed to Rachaad White. But I agree with you, Mike. You hold on that. Any other thoughts as we head to week number 11?
Well, I say about for Woody Marks, fantasy owners, quit stalling and show us your marks.
Hall of
Yeah,
Famer is here. Is here. He's all here all week. Don't forget to tip your waiters and waitresses and try the veal.
but him.
All right. We help you out each week. Fantasy Sultans are here for you. You can email us,
Yeah.
fantasysultans@gmail.com. Don't forget about our Sunday with the Sultans show, which you can catch on Fox Sports Radio New Jersey and Fox Sports radio stations and foxsportsnewjersey.com, Sunday mornings at 11 o'clock. And it's a little different than what we do here on the podcast. Mostly because there's been a Thursday night game, so we can't talk about it. We don't usually talk about that. And this week there is also a game in Madrid, Spain, so we can't talk about that either. You know, but same mirth and merriment, same fun. And next week on our podcast, we are hopeful to have a special guest, the fantasy sultaness, my offspring, who I severely question sometimes on fantasy. Yeah. But hopefully we'll have Stephanie on next week, and she'll join us to do our usual fun and frolic. Week 12. And it's hard. And listen, as you said and alluded to, Mike, I mean, this is the home stretch for fantasy. We are heading down the home stretch because most fantasy seasons are 13, 14 weeks. Then you're going to go to playoffs, and hopefully you are in a position for playoffs. You've got to think about that, though. And again, you're now at the point of the season where you really start to evaluate, do you want to go with these guys or not? And I think that's one of the real interesting tasks that you're faced with. Because I look at my roster, and on a couple of my teams, I'm really stacked, and I'm like, I don't want to make a move, but like, maybe I get this guy. I don't know. Not indecision, but I think that's one of the things you've got to set yourself up. And the other part of it is you got to go with what brought you here. And if your lineup is working, don't worry about tweaking it too much because, hey, that's why you're winning.
Oh, I definitely agree with that. I mean, I think when you take a look at your lineup, it's an evaluation each and every week. You always have to try to make it the best possible lineup that you can. And like you said, if it got you there, then I wouldn't change it. I mean, you gotta go roll with the punches each and every week and make the best possible lineup that you can. That's pretty much what it comes down to. In these games, these last 4 or 5 games of the season, they're the most important. So if you're kind of sitting there on the bubble, you can't be making too wild moves. You gotta roll with what got you there. But at the same time, you make wild decisions, it could cost you. So you got to be on your game each and every week. That's why we bring it here with the Fantasy Sultans.
And also keep in mind when you let somebody go, what do they say? Somebody's trash is another person's
one man's trash and another man's treasure. Yeah.
Yeah, another man's treasure. Yeah, and that's what it could be. And that's again what could happen in fantasy. All right, we give it to you each and every week here on the Fantasy Sultans podcast. He is the Hall of Famer Mike Scheck. I am Tripp Rogers. We will have more for you next week. We thank you for joining us as always. And remember, you listen to us and watch us because we give you the fantasy tidbits that are going to help you win. The difference between winning and losing sometimes is the Fantasy Sultans. We are the Fantasy Sultans.
And you are not.